is. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress podcast. I'm Ben Adams with my co-host Adam Lang, and today we're going to talk about the 35 lessons we'd give to our 20-year-old selves on how to build wealth, grow our careers, and step into who we're called to be. Adam, episodes like this I love because it's only been 15, 20 years since I've been in my 20s, but so much wisdom to pass on. You excited about today?
I am, man. This is a fun one. I love kind of looking back and just reflecting on chapters of your life and, 20 years ago, or a 20-year-old self, I should say. That's literally, half, basically within a year or so, half of our current age. So just thinking about, kind of the quarters of life, that we're kind of at halftime at the moment, I would think, as far as our ages go. But thinking about just, at the age of 20, just where we both were personally in our lives. We actually knew each other back then, which is cool to think of. But just how different, I think of how different I was then compared to now. And, excited also, though, think about 20 years in the future from now and where we'll be at that point, too.
Do you ever look back and just kind of shake your head at yourself on some of your thought processes or behavior or decisions, or, when you were in your 20s?
Yeah, man. I think about Jenko jeans and mushroom bowl haircuts. Yeah, those are two right off the bat.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going through that right now with my teenagers. But at the same time, though, there's two ways to look at it. Sometimes I'll look back and I'll be embarrassed almost about, some of the decisions I made or how I would act. I may have been very undisciplined. So, you can look at it in that regard, or you can look at it in a positive regard and just look at all the growth that you've achieved over the last 15, 20 years. And that's one thing that I've realized for me is the pursuit of growth and pursuing progress, which is why we started this podcast. That to me is one of the most fulfilling, rewarding things, knowing that I'm growing, I'm getting better, I'm becoming more mature, I'm developing my skills, and ultimately I'm stepping into who I'm called to be.
Yeah, I think we're kind of like the last generation of individuals that basically did not have our lives being recorded and documented like the current generation and everyone from here on into the future. Like I don't have a social media account to fall back on and look at what I was like at the age of 20 and how I talked and my personality and my tone with how I presented myself on camera and picture, all that kind of stuff. Just not having the ability to go back and see that for us, I don't think that'll be the case anymore. So there's goods and bads to that. I'm kind of glad to leave some of that in the past, but it would be fun just to, have a little bit more, media to kind of see what we were like back then.
Yeah. Do you ever get those Facebook updates where it says, on this day, 15 years ago, you made this comment?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple times where I'll go back and look at the comment and oh my gosh. There's other times though where somebody replies to one of my photos or something. It's 15 years old, and I'll go in and reply to it because I never did, and it's 15 years later. Oh, that's a great. Let's catch up. I'd love to get together for that cup of coffee. It's only 15 years later.
I kind of remember seeing that on your Facebook recently. That's funny. Well, we got a lot to cover, guys. Let's just kind of jump into this. Again, 35 lessons. What our plan was on this episode is to kind of rapid fire these at you. So, just some of these you guys might relate to, you might, get some connection to, others you might not, but just to kind of get everybody's minds thinking about just different lessons, different, concepts, topics, just things that we wish we could instill again to our 20-year-old self. So in no particular order, starting right off from the top with number one, Ben, just talk to me a little bit about this one. It's focusing on performance-based work.
I believe the lie coming out of college that you want to get good grades, go graduate from school so you can go get a job. And I believed in that until I got laid off from Wells Fargo, despite being the top producing, best customer service representative at my job. And I realized at that point, it really was just about the bottom line for them. My results actually didn't matter to them because I wasn't in a performance-based role. And after I understood that, I realized that I can control my money and my time by focusing on performance-based work. It's funny though, if you're on everyone looks at the salary as like the safe thing. The reality though is that if you're on a salary, when it comes time for laying people off or right sizing, that's like the salaried employees are always the first to go.
Especially the high salaried individuals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the only thing I'd like to add on this one is just with the generation going into the workforce now at the age of 20 and what to expect in the next, few years to come with all of this stuff with AI, just not only performance-based work, but also performance-based work that still requires some level of human element. And, we're going to be surprised at what true capabilities AI has with how much it can replace. But there's certain things that still are just never going to be, or I shouldn't say never, but much more unlikely to in the immediate future be replaced. Trades type skills, plumbing, electricians, just all sorts of stuff that's still available out there. But just having that in the back of your mind too.
I've thought about what I do, and I bet what I do at some point, probably 20 years out, 30 years out, it's possible it could get eliminated. Who knows?
Yeah. Real estate too.
That's a great point. Number 2, mastering emotional control. Talk to us about mastering emotional control and why that's so important.
Yeah, just understanding that, a lot of people at least react emotionally to, things that cost them their money as well as relationships. Just really understanding that bad decisions mostly come from these temporary emotions that if you really just take a step back, take a breath, and then respond or then act on whatever it is that you're faced with, you're much more likely to make a sound financial decision. Just understanding emotions. And at the age of 20, for a lot of people, I think myself included, I'm still going through a lot of changes at that point in your life, going into college and emotions. So, don't expect yourself to be, or somebody that you're looking at the age of, 20 or early 20s to be imperfect with this one. I think this is something that really comes with time and age.
Yeah, the reality is that most people do not control their emotions well. And when you don't control your emotions, what you're really doing is allowing your emotions to control you. And you're allowing your outside environment to control you. The only thing that you can truly control is your thoughts, your behaviors, how you respond, how you show up. And if you're letting go of control of your emotions, you have no hope. And so I, as a 20-year-old, was someone who was very emotionally out of control at times. I remember there was this one time that I couldn't find my passport and I wasn't going anywhere. I just, I misplaced it. Dude, I just got so worked up and overreacted and was huffing and puffing and making a big fuss and yelling. Ugh.
Temper tantrum.
It was a 20-year-old temper tantrum, yeah. And now I get to deal with teenage tantrums, which I didn't even know were a thing until this last year.
Well, with that one being said, let's talk about number 3. Happiness is fleeting. Focus on fulfillment. Understanding that just chasing happiness leads to emptiness from a standpoint that what's more important is focusing on progress, purpose, and having the discipline to do so. Instead of, thinking of that happiness, really think about this instead. What gives your life meaning? That's where true satisfaction is found. And in my opinion, that's when you truly become happy and fulfilled.
Exactly. And that's why I have that on here, is because I always hear so many people talking about happiness and wanting to be happy. And you shouldn't try or want to be happy. You should focus on fulfillment, because when you're focusing on fulfillment, you're developing new skills, you're growing, you're giving back, you're helping others. And when you do all of those positive things, not only will you be fulfilled, more than likely you will also be happy too.
So number 4, if you want to change, you have to actually want to change. You actually have to change. Ben, talk through this one quickly.
Yeah, this is one that I'm talking to my kids a lot about right now. Teenagers can sometimes make poor decisions. And I was also in this boat when I was a teenager and, even as a 20-year-old, probably as a 30-year-old. But you can't just talk about wanting to change. You have to actually change. And so with my son right now, he's recently made some poor decisions. And I'm like, we got to make some changes. He's like, well, I'm not changing the way I dress. I'm not changing the friends that I hang out with. I'm not going to change like what I'm doing after school, but I am going to change. Well, you just told me that you're not changing every area of your life. So you're not going to start making better decisions if nothing's going to change. So, in order to change, you have to change. A lot of times it starts with changing your environment, changing your habits, and cutting things out of your life.
And at the age of 20, one tough life lesson you're going to eventually learn if you don't follow this is people eventually change. It's just a matter of how much pain it's going to take before they are forced to make that change. So rather than relying on that pain to get so severe that that's what's creating the change, again, just focusing on the growth, focusing that understanding that the growth is going to be uncomfortable. You just have to pick your hard, pick your difficulty and embrace that.
Yeah, if you don't change, if you're not willing to change, someone is going to make those changes for you, i.e. prison, i.e. military school, etc. Number 5, lesson number 5, no one actually cares. This was big for me, and even as recently as like my 30s. Remind yourself, no one actually cares. People are not judging you as much as you think, and stop caring about the opinions of others. The only thing that's doing when you worry about what other people think, what you're really ultimately talking about is embarrassment. And if that's holding you back, then you're not going to be able to step into the person that you're called to be.
Yeah, the last like 5 years or so, I think myself, but you as well, have really tried to lean into being behind video on camera more, just being out there a little bit more in the social stratosphere, and that's tough, and I think that's one of the things that so many people, especially in our industries in real estate and mortgage, that want to get into that, but they just have this worry that people are judging them, that they're going to be embarrassed, that they're people everybody cares about, it not looking perfect or stumbling over your words, all that kind of stuff. Nobody cares. Like once you can get that through your head and just understand that, it's very liberating, because take that part out of your headspace, and it opens up more creative ability to, just do what you want to do and hopefully find success in doing so.
And it's exhilarating to do something that you're really uncomfortable with. I remember making my first few videos, some of the shorts and the YouTubes. It's difficult getting on camera, but then, it's also very fun and rewarding to do something that you may feel insecure about. So no one actually cares. Lesson number 6, stop learning how to sell and learn how to become a resource. What is this about, Adam?
Yeah, this is all about value, in my opinion. And one of my favorite entrepreneurs, I haven't been following him as much recently, but it's Gary Vaynerchuk. And he has a really good book that I recommend checking out. It's older. It's probably maybe 15 years old, 10, 15 years old at this point, but it's jab, 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 right hook. And the concept of this is just to really be an expert when it comes to sales and persuasion and just marketing, advertising, all of those concepts, just really understanding how it's jab, 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 meaning add value, becoming a resource, just providing value for free, not with any expectation in return. So jab, 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 just continuing to do so. And then you do a right hook, which is your call to action or your offer, whatever it is that you're trying to hopefully monetize and have as part of your business. So just understanding how, it's not about just straight up selling and asking, it's all about giving. And then when the time is right, and only then having that be when your offer is presented to your customer.
I tell every customer that I work with, I'm not here to sell you anything. What I am here to do is be a resource for you so you can determine how to move forward. I'm not here to give you the answers. I want to make sure that I'm helping you ask the right questions so together we can come to the right conclusions. And one thing for me, it's like so many people don't understand money and they don't understand how it works. I see how it holds people in bondage, and I just want to be a resource. I want to help educate. I want to help empower individuals. And you do that by adding value and being someone that they can trust.
Love it. Number 7, your biggest problems are actually your greatest blessings. Struggles don't break you, they build you. I think that is, the theme on this one. Just understanding that every setback is really just a chance to grow stronger and wiser. The only way you lose is if you quit. If you're just persistent and just know that any problem that is presented, that's really just an opportunity to hopefully, grow, learn from your mistakes, and become a better human being and better at whatever craft it is you're trying to perfect. So just really looking at problems from a different lens, and that's going to change the way you run your business, to change your just mental health and happiness. Is going to affect a lot of things for the positive.
I read today that success and failure are on the same road. One just has an earlier exit. I was like, you know what? I've never quite heard it like that, where if you just keep going, you're on the same road. If you quit, you're exiting too soon. If you just keep going, you're going to eventually take your success exit. And ultimately for me, that's how I remind myself, whenever I'm facing incredible adversity at work or at home, I thank God for allowing that to come into my life, because I know that I'm going to grow as a result of this as a person. And instead of allowing that to bring anxiety and fear into my life, it gives me a feeling that I'm going to conquer this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to become more resilient, more formidable because of this thing. I'm going to strengthen this work relationship because we're going to problem solve this problem together. We're still going to get the deal done, and they're going to love us. And so having that attitude when it comes to problems is, it's huge.
Love that. So number 8, there are no shortcuts, and you don't want them to be. You don't want any shortcuts, and that's just the whole concept. Kind of going off this last one too, with just easy money often comes with hard lessons. The faster it comes, the faster it goes. The struggle is really what builds those skills, that confidence, and like Ben was saying, that resilience. If it were easy, everybody would do it. And like Ben also just said, really embracing that and just being able to identify that those are the opportunities, those are the moments that you do find this growth and progress. So just, again, look at it from a different perspective.
One of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes is when he talks about it's about who you become along the way. So when you're going through your journey, it's not just about getting to the destination. It's about becoming the person that you're called to be, who you become along the way with the character, the skills, the perseverance, all these different qualities. And that's what the real gift is. And that's why you don't want it to be easy.
So number 9, the world owes you nothing. Nada. Zilch.
It sounds like a James Bond movie. The world owes you nothing.
Get us some Billie Eilish in here. The world owes you nothing.
No one's coming to save you. Success isn't given, it's earned. And the faster you accept responsibility and accountability for your actions, your mindset, your life, the faster you'll succeed.
Mic drop. Couldn't have said it better myself. Number 10, show me your friends and habits. I'll show you your future. I love this one. We talk about this one a lot, and it's for a good reason. It's because it's very, very true. Just understanding that your environment shapes your outcomes. I know Ben might want to say a couple of things on this one. The only other thing that I'll mention is the Pareto principle. Just understanding that, the 5 people you spend the most time around are those habits, those characteristics, those traits of those 4 or 5 other people. That is going to eventually be the same as what you're becoming. They did a crazy study a long time ago where they took all these different groups of friends, took the 5 people in each of these friend groups, took every single one of their net worths and divided it by 5. And basically it was incredibly close to everybody else within each circle. So just understanding that, pick and choose your circle, your mentors, just the people that you're spending your time with. Hopefully, strive to always be improving that circle. Don't have to get rid of those friends, but just being able to, finding ways you can provide value to others. So hopefully they will, bring them into your circle and they'll add value to yours as well.
The number one mistake that young people make in reference to this lesson is what they do is they mistake fun for value. And I was guilty of this too when I was in my 20s. This person is fun to be around. I enjoy being around this person, without recognizing how toxic their habits are. And so you want to be around this person because they're fun. What you don't realize, though, is you can also have fun with someone that is respectful, responsible, and has very positive habits. And those are lessons I'm trying to teach my kids right now. You can have fun with anyone, but you got to make sure that you're around the right people.
Yep. So we'll take a quick break for our sponsor of the week. This one's by Roadrunner Property Care in Tucson, Arizona. Roadrunner Property Care, it's your property, but it's their priority. If you're a property owner in Tucson, Arizona, looking for a hassle-free property management company, well, Roadrunner Property Care takes care of everything. Routine maintenance, security checks, guest management, you name it, they do it. Visit roadrunnerpropertycare.com. That's roadrunnerpropertycare.com to learn more today. Thank you very much to Roadrunner. They've been a great sponsor from day one, and we wouldn't be where we are without them. So thank you, Roadrunner Property Care.
Thank you, Roadrunner. And we got some great sponsors with the podcast here. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, please reach out to Adam. We'd love to have that conversation.
We would.
Our next 10 lessons are focused on discipline and money. So I'll start off with number 11 here. Hard days equal easy life. Easy days equal hard life. This is such an impactful one for me. I think it's so true. If your days are easy, if you don't do anything challenging, if you get up late, if you don't have a job, if you don't work hard, if you're not disciplined, if you eat whatever you want, whenever you want, if you don't exercise, those are all easy things. But you're going to have a very difficult and a very hard life. If you do hard things consistently every single day, if you get up early, you go to the gym, you go for your run, you make your sales calls, you're responsible to your family, you're growing yourself, those are all hard things. They require discipline, commitment, dedication, very hard. Your life will be easy.
Love it. Choose your hard and choose it wisely. Number 12, create a vision for yourself. Not just goals, but a vision. Close your eyes. Visualize your career, your finances, your relationships, your health, just your overall purpose and where you want to be in life and how you're contributing back to society. If you can't see that, then it's going to be very difficult for you to build it. Ed Mylett, an entrepreneur and a guy that I've looked up to for several years, he talked about vision recently on an episode of his podcast and talked about how this is one of the biggest, in his opinion, attributes that he had in his younger life that really propelled him to the success he has. I think he's well worth over 500 million at this point. Very, very successful guy. And he just talked about, though, that what a lot of people don't have is this vision where people dream at night when they go to sleep. Well, he dreams during the day. Like he's developed such a, very keen ability to have this vision where he can just think about this stuff whenever he wants. Oh. And the bigger you dream, the bigger you visualize on your goals, the much more likely you are to have some success, just having it be top of mind all the time.
You need to have a vision because it gives your life purpose. And when you don't have a vision, you can do whatever you want. That's why I think having a vision with your faith, with your money, with your family is so important, because if you don't, none of it matters. You can go spend the money that you don't have. You can go rack up the credit card debt. You can skip out on church because nothing matters. So you need to have a vision and a direction that you're heading.
Number 13, you don't need everybody to like you. It's okay to be a loner. It's okay to stop chasing approval all the time from others. The right people will appreciate you for who you are. And freedom really comes from this, especially when you stop caring about other outside, opinions of you. So just really kind of similar to one of those other ones we talked about a little earlier, but just really understanding that you don't need everybody to love you.
Yeah. And the biggest one on this is the difference between trying to chase versus learning how to attract. I was guilty of this when I was, younger. I was always trying to chase the girl or the job or the opportunity. And when you do that, you're living from a place of demand or even desperation, and it's very unattractive. But when you build out the skills, the quality, the character, those opportunities will find you, and you won't have to go chasing. They'll come to you.
I know you're going to be big on this next one. Number 14, financial literacy is the only second language you need. So talk to us a little bit about this. It's the new ESL, the new second language that needs to be taught in schools, but is not.
That's right. And guess what? My son had his first class today at his new school, his first class, personal finance.
Nice.
That's all I needed to know. And I was like, we're doing that. We're doing personal finance. Personal finance and financial literacy, I'm not kidding. It is the only second language you need to know. It is so important. If you don't understand how money works, it doesn't matter how much money you make, how high your income is, how successful your career is. You have no hope. You have to understand that money is a game. There are rules of money. If they're followed, if the rules of money are followed, you will win.
And is it
If
true
they're
that
not, you will lose.
and is it true if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense? Or is that just a rap verse?
Yeah, you can't you can't step over dollars to pick up cents, and it doesn't make sense to not pick up dollars.
I recently saw, total unrelated here, but I recently saw that the President Trump put a halt on making any more pennies because the 1 cent penny apparently costs 3 cents to make. So talking about financial literacy in our government, let's think about that one for a little bit here.
I mean, when you think about some of that stuff, like honestly, we're spending 3 cents to make something that has the value of one. Does that make sense? No, I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't. And these are, and I know, the reason that this is difficult for some people to talk about is because it's political. If you took away the political part of it and you said, would it make sense to make something for 3 cents that has a value of 1 cent? No. Did you see the Social Security statistics that came out today?
I saw a few things about there was somebody that was like over 300 years old still collecting it.
There's like 10 million people in the United States that are over the ages of 150 that are still receiving Social Security.
Wow.
And this is like, I know, again, it's a political thing and people love to bitch. But dude, like this is the government waste that I am talking about and so many other people are talking about. This isn't a political thing for me. Like that's why these audits have to be done.
I just think it's crazy that all of this has happened. It hasn't even been a month. Like just the fact, just proving the point that it doesn't take that much effort to even just like get a grasp on some of this stuff. Yet this has been going on for decades and no improvement whatsoever. It just, I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing in my opinion, just to see how quickly all this stuff gets identified and, how this should not have taken this long to even get to the point that it is today.
I know. And that's why, I shared a Ray Dalio post today on social, and that's why countries eventually collapse is because of reasons like this. They become so inefficient with managing their resources. Ultimately, their debt gets out of control and it spirals so big that it causes collapse, economic collapse.
We'll jump to number 15. American consumption is a disease.
Guys, please listen to this one. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple different stats. 74% of Americans are either overweight or obese. In 1950, the year 1950, less than 1% of the adult American population had diabetes too. In 2025, 50% of the adult population is diabetic or pre-diabetic. At the same time, 79% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck or have less than a $2,000 emergency fund saved. And it is because of American consumption with diet, with wanting the best, the newest, the nicest, with money, overspending. American consumption is a disease.
All I got to say,
that fires me up, dude.
All I got to say to add to that is look at the Apple iPhone. And I was almost falling guilty to this recently too. It's like, oh, it's got a little bit better camera, or oh, it's got a different port to plug something in. Oh, well, yeah, I must need it. Yeah, I'm going to go spend another $1,000 to get the new one, even though this one's totally fine. Just consumption of just keeping up with the Joneses and just the disease, mental health issue that just exists with that. So we
There's
can move
more
on,
people
but
on pills, prescription. There's more mental health issues. I read a statistic today that 50% of adults will have cancer at some point in their life.
wow.
Dude, this stuff didn't exist 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It just makes you wonder what needs to change. Number 16, stop drinking and start reading.
Yeah, and this doesn't have to come off too harshly, but there's middle ground here to an extent. But just basically it's the concept that alcohol is an escape. Books are growth, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a book reading. It could also be educational content on YouTube or other forms of education. But just understanding that you don't necessarily have to follow the norms of society and do what everybody else is doing. Friday night doesn't have to be a consistent going out to the bars activity. It couldn't be embracing staying at home with your partner and laying in bed and both reading or doing something else productive. Just understanding there's other options out there, and your future self will definitely thank you for just investing in this knowledge and personal growth at the younger age.
And it also doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be marijuana or some other substance. Ultimately, it's something that you are using as an escape. And instead of dealing with your issues or growing as an individual, you're allowing, you're essentially numbing yourself instead of dealing with whatever those issues are. Number 17, poverty is a mindset. Talk to us about this one, Adam.
Yeah, you become what you believe. If you think you'll always struggle, you will. I forgot what do you call people that are like they think they're always sick?
Sycophiliac.
Yeah, something like that. That's not it, but anyways, just thinking of like that as an example. You know what I mean? Just like mindset, glass half full, glass half empty. Just glass half empty, similar to poverty. Just that mindset. People that always are woe is me, life is happening, everything's against me. It's going to continue to be like that if you have that mindset. So just understanding that it's a choice.
10% of life is what happens to you. 90% of life is how you respond.
Mm-hmm. So number 18, stop reading and start studying.
Wait a second. Wait, whoa. Now you don't want us to read after just saying you wanted us to read?
I know.
Well, let me share a story in this one really quick. I used to keep track of how many books I read in a year. What I was doing, though, is I was reading all these books, but to actually retain the information, you have to, reading is a great first step, but you have to study, you have to implement, you have to take action on what you're reading. So what I do now, my strategy is a little bit different. I do have a morning book that I read and an evening book that I read. So I'm always reading two books at once. My evening book is more for pleasure. It's usually, it's still, growth inspiring, and it is usually some type of biography that I can read on a famous character. Right now I'm reading a biography on JP Morgan, but my morning read, I have 5 books that I'm reading, and I will just cycle through those 5 books and see how many times I can read them in one calendar year. So instead of seeing how many books I can read, I'm going to see how many books I can read the same time in 1 year. Study.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add to that is, and I'm speaking from my personal experiences here, is you have to want to read. So don't just look at this as a chore where you sit down in your chair, pick up your book, and you just kind of blankly look at the pages and you're reading, but you're not absorbing it. You're not doing anything with this. It's just kind of going in one ear out the other, so to speak. That's just wasting your time. So make sure you have some level of intention and desire to actually be reading. And if you don't, then maybe just kind of think through like the value of what you're getting out of this, other than just the superficial or just the fact that you're just looking at a book and enjoying it. You're getting other things out of it if it's a good quality book, self-improvement, whatever it may be. All kinds of books have value to them. But just kind of understanding
and that's why having the right mindset is so important when you go in. If you know that this is going to benefit you, you're going to grow as a result as a person. Because I used to not be a reader. And I used to like reading was very difficult for me. So I started reading things that I was semi interested in. And then you kind of like learn what you like, but you got to like be willing to start and try. But you got to have the right attitude.
And one last thing before we move on, if you guys are just having a hard time and you haven't read in a long, for years and years and years, and you're trying to get back into it, but you're just struggling, another good tip
Yeah.
is buy the book, but then also buy the Audible audio version, and you can listen to it while you're also reading it. And having two forms of engagement like that really helps you absorb and just retain a lot more of the content you're reading. So
Yeah.
if it's a
I'm
really
so glad
like
you said
dry
that.
book or a book that's just challenging because it's got a lot of kind of maybe complex content in it, especially if it's like a business type book or something, that is especially valuable. And I think you guys would be amazed at just how much more you get out of it.
Sometimes it's fun though to read and just have that narrator voice like reading along with you. And I
Morgan
think
Freeman.
if you are not a great reader, or if you're learning how to get passionate about reading, I think that is such a valuable tool on how to get started.
You're talking about Morgan Freeman?
I'm talking about just anything, yeah. Or at a time when interest rates were falling from the sky.
See,
All right, number 19. I'll let you go ahead.
Desire the right things. Chase freedom, not chains. Avoid traps like debt, instant gratification, and just some of these mindless consumption. Just again, just like getting your head right, just understanding what's really important, and just having those be what consumes you and what you focus on, rather than some of these empty, traps.
So many people let others or American culture or social media define their value. Don't ever let anyone else define your value or what's important to you. Like learn to define your own value. And I always say that, I see so many times it's like, I love that this person had a goal that they're trying to do something. It's just unfortunate that this is what they were, desiring.
Mm-hmm.
Because this thing they were desiring is actually just putting chains around them, and that's why that financial literacy piece is so important, because American consumerism is a disease. And so if you take that financial literacy and you rack up credit card debt because you're pursuing American consumerism and you let someone else define value, well, all of a sudden you've just wrapped chain after chain after chain around you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Very much so. So number 20 goes out to my math fans out there, people out there that love math. Subtraction.
Math fans,
Subtraction equals addition. I'll say that again.
Or is it addition by subtraction?
Subtraction equals addition. What could that possibly mean?
I think for math fans out there, go ahead and call into the show or message us. I think you can move over, because if you move over the subtraction, or if you move over the addition, like you have to make it negative. So I don't know. We'll have to get some input from our math folks. What do you mean by that though? What are you trying to say?
If you cut toxic people and just bad habits, you create this extra open space for growth. So by subtracting, you're actually adding. Less distractions, more success.
Have you ever had to cut people out of your life?
I have, yeah. And
when you've done that, are you making like a proclamation to them saying, I'm cutting you out of my life for these reasons, or are you just, kind of not reinvesting in the relationship?
The latter of those two. I'm pretty non-confrontational, so I haven't gone up to any people in the past and blatantly subtracted them. But I have, just through intention and lack of response, just limited response, kind of had them naturally just kind of dissipate from life. But I think this is a simple concept, but I think very, very true. So again, guys, subtraction equals addition.
I also think it's one that people have a really difficult time with. They get stuck in their patterns of behavior and their patterns of people, and they struggle with that. All right, last section here. The final 15 are for long-term thinking and personal power. Lesson number 21: consistency is greater than intensity. And this is one that I know I had a challenging time with. I would always focus on results and intensity. I'd get real motivated when I was in my 20s. Maybe I'd go to the gym like really hard for a week in a row, or get really serious about running for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, or, wanting to, read or start this new skill. No, it's consistency that beats intensity. So showing up every day, even if in short bursts, building out those small daily habits, doing them consistently will lead to massive long-term success. A really big book that influenced me was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this is one of his primary messages in the book. You have to learn to be consistent before you can go really, really intense. This is also the strategy that I've used with my daughter in her training program. Before she even got into high school, she ran a mile a day for a full year. Running a mile a day is really not that big of a deal. And, it's going to take anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes. What is a big deal, though, is doing that 365 days in a row. Once you've done that, well, can you go run a mile and a half? Can you run 2 miles? Well, now she's up to running, nearly 7 miles a day, and she's doing it every single day because she's built out that consistency muscle.
Love that. Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that too is another book that I think is equally relevant here. Is a very, very difficult book to read. Actually, it's very long. If you guys are looking for a challenge, it's called The Tortoise and the Hare. And the tortoise is consistency, and the hare is intensity. You know the outcome. That's all I need to say. So the next one, 22, prioritize peace. So a peaceful mind obviously makes much better decisions, set boundaries, eliminate unnecessary stress, and truly see how much of an impact that has on your mental well-being.
You got to get around the right people. And if you're not around, have you ever been around that person that just sucks your energy and just will come in, they'll walk into the room, they'll suck the life out of you, and then they'll just spit you out. And the whole time you're just sitting there.
Shaking, scared.
I've been around a couple of people. I've been married to someone like that. And it is exhausting. But, making the wrong decisions too. When you don't make the right decisions that align with your long-term goals and values, I look at the decisions that I make. Is this going to add peace to my life, or is it going to add chaos? And once you learn to understand what peace really is, your life will never be the same. Like, I really value peace now. My 20s, I did not give two shits about that.
100% agree, man. Peace is everything. Well, let's rapid fire through a few of these just to keep everybody moving forward. So number 23, forgive and let go. Resentment is one of these things that can really hold you back. Forgiveness is all about freeing yourself, not just excusing others, but treating yourself with enough respect to free yourself and forgive yourself.
Number 24, dare to dream big. Your dreams should be so big that they scare you. If your dreams don't scare you, if they don't get you uncomfortable, they're not big enough. One thing that I see with young people today, they don't know how to dream. I'll ask, like, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? A lot of times I can't even get anyone to articulate what they want. Number 25, another big one, take care of your body. Health equals wealth. This hit home after I turned 40. When you turn 40, like you talked about, you're kind of at halftime, and you just start thinking about what you're putting into your body, how you're living your life. Is this, how is this impacting my health? I'm much more intentional with my health. I'm getting my blood work checked every year, getting my physical done, getting my blood pressure checked routinely. Health is wealth.
Yeah, some of the people that I look up to the most, just in different industries and just mentors, that type of people, just the one consistent thing that almost all of them have today that a lot of wealthy people and successful people 20 years ago didn't have is just how healthy and prioritizing health so many of them today have. And you think about, like, I think my dad's company and that kind of generation before us, and people that were kind of at the top of the totem pole successfully, with wealth or just financially, they were also oftentimes the guys that were working 18 hours a day, overweight, not eating healthy, not
Yeah.
exercising, not sleeping well. So it's definitely more
It's
of a
crazy how
priority
much
now.
that's changed. Where when I think of really successful people on social media and all the influencers that I follow, like the ones that are, I mean, everyone is in good shape. And now, even guys like in my local Colorado market that I really look up to, like most of them are in tip top shape. I'm reading this JP Morgan biography that I mentioned about a minute ago. And did you know that, back in the 1800s, being out of shape, being overweight, being obese was a social status almost to just, flaunt your wealth. You would, and, the
Gluttony.
doctors, JP Morgan smoked, I think it was like 20 cigars a day. And his doctor actually gave him orders: spend as little time on your feet as possible. In no instance should you ever hurry.
Wow.
Like not
Okay.
even like ever even like walk fast.
Wow. So number 26, the secret to mornings is actually the night before. A disciplined
PG
evening.
version here that you're giving us. You're giving us the PG version.
Correct. Correct. Depends how good you want to sleep that night. So if you have certain techniques to sleep like a baby, go for it. But just really understanding that a disciplined evening creates a much more productive morning. One just quick tip I'll share that I learned recently is at the end of your workday each day, not at the very end, but ideally maybe like an hour, hour and a half ahead of time. So if you're clocking out at 5, maybe like 3:30 ish, have what's called an after action report, which is basically just a short, 2 to 4 questions of just like, how did the day go? What did you get accomplished? But then also, what's the highest priority to tackle tomorrow? So by having
Yeah.
that kind of identified the night before, kind of going into this, productive evening equals, productive next day, just having a little bit of intention behind your end of day to just make it so in the morning, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to, consider what's the most important. You already know what to do so you can hit the ground running and just start the day on a productive note.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if you don't know how to do all of that, what I'm doing right now is I started using a journal, and I've never journaled before. But what's great about this is it has everything that you just mentioned already outlined. What are you thankful for today? 3 things to be thankful for. What are your goals today? What are your objectives? What are you looking to accomplish? What are you going to do during your focus time? What are you looking forward to tomorrow? And you can be as descriptive or not, with how you fill it out. But then there's also a habit tracker too. You can outline what habits are important to you. Did you do this? Check. Did I go to the gym? Check. Did I go for my run? Did I get up on time? Did I read? Did I do all? And so it's just a great way to hold yourself accountable and hold on to that momentum.
Love it. So number 27, stay humble and hungry. Success is temporary. Just keep pushing, just understanding that with every win, you know, there's always going to be that little bit of time to celebrate, but then it's time to get back to what's really fulfilling in life, which is more achievement, more progress, more success, and whatever it is that you're working towards. So again, success
When
is
you
temporary. Keep pushing forward.
when you get to the top of the mountain of that goal that you're trying to reach, or that destination that you're trying to get to, what's at the top of the mountain? More mountains.
Ain't no mountain high
And
enough.
you never, that's right. Ain't no mountain high enough. That's right.
So kind of following up that one, attract success, don't chase it. So this is number 28. Attract success, don't chase it. Become the
Yep.
type of person that opportunities and relationships seek out. So kind of what Ben talked about earlier, like providing as much value as you can, giving to others, which is going to eventually pay off because it's going to be attracting that success rather than you needing to go out and chase it. By providing value to others, they're going to, seek you out and build relationships with you.
And when you give value, you're not expecting anything in return. I will help people financial plan. I'll give them financial advice. I'll share personal stories of what I'm doing or not. I just want to be able to be a resource and help. You do, and I do that wholeheartedly. And sometimes we'll have these conversations just outside of whatever I am, getting paid to help them with. But it's very rewarding and fulfilling for me, and I really am helping someone. But what are they going to do? They're going to turn around and tell their friends about me. They're going to recommend me to their friends and family. I will get more by giving more, but getting more can't be the focus. It has to be a genuine focus on giving.
Yep. Take instant gratification out of your vocabulary and just understand that with time, it'll pay off. So the next
That's
one,
right.
number 29, fill your own cup first. So you can't pour into others if you're running on empty. Or another example I like to always think about is on the airplane. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting the person next to you. Just having
Yeah.
some level of self-love and just, respecting yourself enough to give yourself that time that it needs to, just enjoy life, whether it be going to the gym and having an hour detached from your phone and your computer or whatever it may be. For everybody, it's different, but just understanding that you need to find ways that you can be consistently on a daily basis filling your own cup.
And that's why personal growth and self care are so important, because it sounds, when you're working on yourself, someone else might interpret that as being selfish. But one of the biggest things that you can give to others is being the best version of you possible. And when you become more mature, when you become more giving, when you become more thoughtful, when you develop when you're a better communicator, when you can anticipate, when you can give without expecting anything back, you develop and you flourish into this incredible person. Everyone that you're around, every life you touch will be positively impacted.
Amen, brother. I like that.
That's right.
Number 30, blaze your own trail and document it. Stop following, start leading. Not much else to say on this one. Ben, you have anything to add to that?
It's, I look back and, just some of the challenges that I had in my childhood, a lot of that was because I didn't have someone that had gone before me, whether it was running or basketball or financial literacy. I had to learn a lot of this stuff on my own. And I'm so thankful that I did. But now that I have understood this stuff, I have a responsibility to share that with others and younger generation. And if someone can buy into what I'm teaching, they can accelerate their progress so much. They can be where I'm at when I'm 40 at 25 or 20.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. Yeah, just the speed of that is tenfold. So number 31, your new life will cost you your old one. Let go of the past to step into your future.
Yeah, this is a tough one for a lot of us. We want bigger things, we want better things for ourselves, but we have our current life and our old life. We're holding on to that so tight, and we don't want to let go of this relationship or this habit, even though we know that it's bad, and we don't want to go to bed on time. Okay, if you don't want to change, nothing's going to change. If you don't want to let go of your old life, you're never going to be able to step into your new life.
Yep. Number 32, I love this one. Think in decades, not days. So, short-term thinking, that's what keeps you small. Long-term thinking and planning this out, being patient, that's really what inspires at least for myself, just gives me this, fresh sense of excitement, just knowing that there's these bigger opportunities in the long picture, in the long-term thinking. I forgot what that quote is. It's like most people underestimate what they can do in a year and overestimate what they can do. I'm saying that backwards. Most people can, you say it, Ben. Did I say that?
Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Thank you.
So most people, they set goals that are too big in 1 year, but they don't set goals that are big enough for 10 years.
Absolutely.
I have so many personal stories I could share here, but really, really learn to think in decades. And and when you learn to think in decades, you can ask yourself, how will this decision today that I'm considering impact me 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Is it going to make me wealthier, or is it going to make me poorer? Am I going to have more freedom, or am I going to have less freedom? And when you can start thinking in decades versus days, you will have so much more clarity on what the correct decision is.
Very well said. Number 33, never, ever give your power away. Mastering money, time, and emotions, Great if
Yeah.
you can. If you can't, they're going to control you.
All of these things that we're talking about today, if you don't master them and learn them, you're really just giving your power away. That's what it's coming down to. When you don't have emotional control, when you don't have control over your money, if you make poor decisions, if you're not a great communicator, those are all different ways of just giving your power away. And so what we're talking about is pursuing growth and becoming more resilient, more responsible. When you do that, you hold on to your power, and you also just got to learn to stop chasing the wrong things. And that's a big one. I used to just chase chase the wrong people, the wrong relationships. I would chase things that didn't serve me. I think deep down, you know that. Sometimes you might have a difficult time admitting that to yourself, but I think deep down, a lot of times I knew that. But I had this desire to want to either, I had the desire to be accepted. I want to have I want to be accepted by this person or by this group. And when your equilibrium gets off, you just start behaving like out of character in all of these different areas. And so that's why you got to recenter and, get back on the right trajectory.
Yeah, before you know it, you're wearing skinny jeans and a turtleneck. You don't even know how you got there. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and you're competing in, women's 110-meter hurdles.
All right, only 2 left, you guys. Stick with us. Number 34, control your calendar, control your life. Prioritizing what matters and just scheduling your success. I think this is something that I have a lot of just history and experience with, just with myself, as well as kind of like, teaching different people on my team in the previous company I was with, and now with the real estate group that I'm with, just how important your calendar is, and how even just as important is to actually be following your calendar you've put into place. If you've scheduled your next day ahead of time and you've got a 2-hour block to do a certain thing, maybe in your business, and another 2-hour block to do work on maybe on your business, actually following through and respecting the calendar and doing what the calendar is telling you to do. I've gone through a lot of periods in my life where I've had my calendar in place, but I just haven't respected it and actually followed it. And you're just not doing yourself any favors. It's going to catch up to you if you do that for too long.
It's so easy to, what you just mentioned, work in your business instead of on it. And, maybe you get a lead or a phone call comes in unexpectedly. And like right now, I no longer will just take anyone's call. I'll schedule a call with you. I would love to have a conversation. I'm not someone that you can just call though, and I'm going to pick up, even if you're a friend. Like if you haven't, scheduled that call with me or texted me beforehand, I'm not going to answer your call because I have a schedule now. I have a calendar. And I got to admit, this is something that I'm really incorporating for the first time, this year, over the last year. And it's so important because what you just said, it allows you to stay focused on the right things. If I'm answering the phone every time it rings, I don't have any idea who it is. If there's something I can help you with, like call me, text me. It'll say that on my voicemail.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a big one. Well, we didn't put these in any particular order, but saving this last one for saving the best for last, maybe for some of you guys. Step into who you are called to be. You were meant for more. Embrace that. Just really understand that everybody's unique and different. Nobody is going to be the same as you. Step into whatever it is that you're called to be. And if you don't know what that is, start exploring just different ways that you can maybe find that out, some self, inner reflection on, who you are maybe today, but also who you want to be.
Just by us having this conversation right now is when you look at the numbers, the chances that we would be conceived and born, it's against stupendous odds. Absolutely stupendous. And it's something. I was watching a Neil deGrasse video, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he talks about this exact thing. The fact that you are just alive is the equivalent of, just some outrageous astronomical astronomy number, like 1 in the universe or something, just something that we can't even comprehend. And so live from that perspective to start, you'll have a whole new purpose and gratitude and thankfulness. And you aren't here to do small things, to do average things. I believe all of us are here to do, like, we all have an incredible calling. Every single person on this planet is here to do exceptional, amazing things. But so few of us believe that.
Just imagine what the world would be like if, even just a fraction more thought that way than they do now. Just the impact that would have.
And ultimately, I think, like, for civilization to take those next steps, like, we need to, like, that will eventually either happen or not.
Yep.
We will change or not. We will start treating the planet better, animal welfare better. We'll clean up our diets, or we won't. And if we don't, we're headed down this path. And if we do, then anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I always imagine, like, what if you went to another planet, but that planet was really Earth, but everyone looked different. They looked like aliens instead of humans. And you just saw how they treated each other. And you saw how they treated their animals for harvesting food. And you saw how they treated their planet. I mean, we would look.
And then you saw Will Smith running down the alley and
yeah, and then you see Will Smith, like, coming down the skyscraper and jumping like 50 stories and, like, lands on, and then he puts his sunglasses on when he, but I think about that because it's like, how barbaric. It just sounds so, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like we treat each other so poorly. We treat our planet poorly. We treat a lot to improve on, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys. Well, that was a lot to cover today. I think we definitely, though, went a little longer on this one just because we are both very passionate about a lot of these today. So, at 35, there's definitely plenty others that we also could have shared with our 20-year-old selves. But I think these were a really good, well-rounded group of lessons that I think would really benefit anybody in their 20s to hear from us or from anybody else. So if you guys have any of these that you want to maybe share with a 20-year-old that is maybe in a position that some of this could help, please share that with them. And you guys, just a couple final takeaways before Ben closes us out. Success is not about luck. It's about mindset, habits, and discipline. The world pays for value, not effort. Focus on your performance, not just working hard. Stop chasing approval. Focus more on becoming that best version of yourself. And then once again, financial freedom, it really does require financial literacy. So make sure you guys learn the game.
You can, and you are, and you will. Believe it, own it, receive it. And next week, we have our next podcast. We have 40 lessons for our 15-year-old self. So please tune in for that. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. In all seriousness, though, what was your biggest takeaway? Drop us a line, send us a comment, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear. And other than that, thank you for tuning in to the Pursuit of Progress. We hope that you guys got value today. Share it, like it with someone who needs it. And until next time, this is Ben Adams for Adam Lang on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.